Hello, hello, wonderful souls. Welcome back to the Your Time to Thrive Summit for Women in Midlife. It's just intended to help women in midlife thrive in what I absolutely believe are some of the best years of our lives. And I know it's not about comparison, really, when I use the term best life, years of your life. It's about making these years so enriching, so nourishing, living with so much vitality and zest, living your truth, speaking your truth. And that is what this Summit series has been all about. That's the intention behind it, to help empower you to do that for yourself. And we have been blessed with just a constant lineup of truly phenomenal women who have so generously been giving up their time, their expertise, their wisdom, their knowledge, their skills, their, divine wisdom and presence to be with us here over these last few days. And today we have as our guest speaker a woman who does all those things as well. She is Shanaz Latif. Hello and welcome, Shanaz.
Thank you, Cheryl. Oh, it's absolutely gorgeous to be alongside you today and in and amongst the wonderful women that have been part of this summit. Thank you for blessing us with the opportunity to speak with each other and all the guests that are going to be watching over the 5 days.
Well, thank you very much. And you are so very, very welcome. Now, Shanaz and myself, we were both speakers, and the listeners would have heard the name April mentioned quite a few times now, because we met at the International Women's Day event that she hosted last month. And I was absolutely taken in with your presentation as well. You spoke about women are weather makers. That was your topic, and it is what we're going to be talking about today. So I just had to have Shanaz impart and share that with as many other women as is possible, because it was so powerful. It resonated deeply with me. I've never heard the term weather maker, I don't think, before. And the way Shanaz spoke to that, it was absolutely healing. It was that powerful. So, women are weather makers, and Shanaz, you are an impact expert and well-being advocate. So, I'm going to hand it over to you to tell us a bit more about that. What what do you mean? I know you're going to unpack that wonderfully for us as we go through.
Yeah.
What do you mean when you say women are weather makers?
Let's get in there, my dear.
Yeah.
Um, well, I will précis this by saying I am coming to the completion of my 53rd trip around the sun. So
Awesome.
I am firmly in the years that you invite us to make the best of. And I have to say, I am working consciously to create joy, to collaborate, and really to experience life to its fullest, whether I'm in the middle of it or wherever I am. Who knows how many days we have?
Yeah.
But I'm all about making this time that is challenged in so many ways, especially around kind of menopausing and growing children and all the rest of it. But I'm really, really determined to make the most of this time. So this phrase, women are weather makers, I can't take complete credit for it because somebody said it to me at some point. Not exactly in that way, but we hear about change makers or thought leaders or rain makers. And someone said this phrase, weather maker, and it sat with me for all these years.
Mm.
And when I've really tried to understand, or to, and I've embodied it, but when I've really tried to explain that, I think there are a few things that we can bear in mind. So there's the kind of literal meaning,
Mm.
people who are doing work around the globe to do with climate, work, to do with environmental sustainability. I was on the phone just a few moments ago to someone exactly like that. So there are there's a literal meaning for those who are involved in environmental and sustainability and eco kind of work. You've got the kind of cultural or poetic interpretations that really we're thinking about women as kind of forces of nature, right? You often hear that phrase, she's a force of
Yeah.
nature. I mean, I'm going to put April in that.
She most certainly is.
And there's just something about, I mean, you can't go personality wise, you could pick some characteristics, but to be in the presence of someone like April and like yourself and lots of the women on here as a force of nature, you just feel like there's just something there, right? We could analyze that, but I think I'm using the term with a little bit of that, not with the literal environmental aspect, although that could be a profession of choice, but the one somewhere in between, which is a kind of metaphoric meaning. So women as agents of change, women as holders and steerers and drivers of power, women as disruptors. And I think I did a little bit of disrupting in the session we were at together. So it's this idea that within us, we hold the power to influence not only what goes on within us, but the whole ecosystem around us. And that might be your home, that might be your workplace, that might be your business, that might be your village, it could be anything. And I want to speak about it from the inside out as well as from the outside in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. Wow. A lot was said there. Oh, you're not messing about. You've hit the
No,
ground running, and we are
no.
in. We are in. Awesome. Love it. Love it. So, women are weather makers, as in, if I can, just taking from what you've said here, we hold the power to impact the ecosystem around us. And that is something I'm getting that emanates from the inside out. So, what would you say to a woman in midlife who is listening, watching this interview, heard what you just said, and is now looking at what was said, what was felt when
Mm,
she heard that, and on the other hand, what she sees as her reality, and her reality to her, perhaps being that her best days are behind her.
mm.
Um, she
It's
is
a
over the hill.
yeah, it's a
Um, she doesn't feel respected, heard, seen, understood, felt, listened to anymore. What do you say to that woman?
yeah, 100%. Thank you. And I do believe there are members of my family in my maternal line, or across from me who would absolutely, say that. So I've got up close personal experience to think about that. I'm going to say a couple of things. One is it's all about perspective, and please let's come back to that in a little while. Um, and let's plant a few seeds, Cheryl, together, and then let's explore them. So one is about perspective. The other is about the time of life that we are in biologically. Okay. So we are talking about menopause, and I'm going to give a quick note on that, which is in Japan, my understanding is the term for the menopause, which I will do a very bad impression of saying, but I'll try and say it anyway. The term is konenki, konenki. But it translates, my understanding is that it translates to a second spring. Now, if we hold on to that idea and counteract those over the hill, pasture sell by day, nothing constructive to add, and we move into a narrative that is more about the wisdom keeper, the crone, right? The second spring. there is in the galactic Mayan kind of approach to time, this is called time to thrive. We're going to think about different types of time. But in the galactic Mayan thinking, when you have done a 13-year cycle 4 times, quick maths, you get to 52, you have done every permutation and combination and of it all. So actually, you're now at the point of wisdom literally oozing from every pore. Okay. And so for me, this is and I say the word magical with a caveat, because I know that can hold some people could have a problem with that word. But for me, there is a magic to this age, and I don't wish to be labeled other than the label I wish to give to myself. And
Absolutely.
let's think about perspective. Let's think about the second spring. And thirdly, let's think about life happening for us, not to us.
Yeah.
And if for the person who says, I feel disrespected, I do not feel heard, I'm actually, while I'm speaking to you, I'm actually holding on to I don't know if you can see
Yeah.
this piece of lapis. Okay, so
Yeah.
anything blue, and you'll see here
Yeah.
my chakras. We're
Yes, your
talking about,
background.
yeah, we're talking about the throat chakra. We're talking about that part of our energy system being able to speak, currently speaking, actually speaking, but whatever that means to you, voicing that which needs to be voiced. That might mean singing when you've been told you are not very good at singing, or you don't have a singing voice. That might be giving your opinion when you know nothing about a subject because you're not the expert. It could mean so many things. So let's take that power that we have actually earned, because we've been on the planet for quite a few decades now,
Yeah.
and let's find ways and places and support systems to allow ourselves to speak, to contribute, to game change, to weather make, all of the things. And sorry, because my thoughts are not sorry. My thoughts keep coming. I'll say one more thing before I hand back to you, which is, as a mother, as a parent, as a woman, you know, when you walk into a room in your home, for me, it's the kitchen, and I walk in and the kids maybe are already there, the husband may or may not be, the family, whatever, everyone's doing their thing. You know, you can walk in and you can either pop like a sun ray and their whole mood lifts, or you can bring it cloudy and down and everyone's bickering, shouting, there's no love there, it's all, and you just think, why are we even together? So that's a very visceral example of the change of the weather being in the power of all humans, but especially women.
Yeah. You know, it's you say that, and there are two things that just sprung up for me, and one of them was a song, and
Mm.
I it might be early 2000s or a 90s song. Everywhere you go, you always take the weather with
Love
you.
that song.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. And especially women. And I
Women.
believe that wholeheartedly. Why do you think that is?
Mm. Why do I think that is? Again, I'm going to look at my beautiful chakras here. Look, we have the centers of creativity. Whether or not you have physically given birth, we have a center of creativity. We are constantly creating, and one is being asked to consciously create, and we are guided, and in fact many would argue influenced by the moon, right? And the tides are influenced by the moon, and we have the waters within us. So as women, the thing that biologically sets us apart is is the center of our creativity, which is our womb space. I think also from a neuroscientific perspective, she says as though she knows neuroscience, I do not. But I think that the limbic part of our brain, the emotion center, gets developed more quickly in women. Again, we haven't, our brain, can you imagine, side note, our brains haven't been fully studied. So the XX brain is a book that came out a little while ago saying our brains have not been studied. What is that about? Honestly, what is that about? Anyway, I believe that our brains develop more quickly when more we have that kind of emotional center that develops, and our ability to then connect the emotional rational there is something to look at. And then finally, I guess it's the balance of the hormones.
Yeah.
Right. So again, it's a biological thing. And yes, during the menopause, estrogen has left the building, and testosterone and progesterone are doing their own thing. And I could carry on running around trying to fix that, which I try and do to an extent. Or I could just flood my body with the other things like the dopamine and the serotonin and all of that lovely stuff.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
So I
Absolutely.
could go down that route and then never mind estrogen. You've gone away, but my oxytocin, because I'm giving people a hug, I can find my happy hormones. Someone
Oh,
today said to me, putting your fingers in the soil when you tend to plants
mm,
actually releases hormones that make you happy.
mm,
Okay. So we have that power. We literally, in our fingertips, we have that power to nurture. And we talk about Mother Nature. We talk about Mother Earth. We use plant medicine like Mama Cacao. This is all about the woman as mother.
mhm, mhm. That feminine aspect, that feminine energy,
Yes,
all that.
divine feminine, not
Yeah.
the toxic femininity, because that's a whole other thing, but that when the feminine is in its divine, when we have the yin really clearly,
Mhm.
that is game changing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to go back to when you mentioned about our ability to change the weather, and we walk into a room and we can change the energetic feel of that space, and that is so true. Do you think that if as women we were more aware of that, and more aware, more conscious of that, and the impact of
Mm,
that, really,
mm,
that ability, do you think that it's something that we have to be conscious of most of the times, or probably not all the time, but most of the times? And what are some of the changes that you have seen
mm,
come about for women
mm.
when they start owning their weather making, and I would have to say prowess, their
Yes.
weather making prowess?
Yeah. Oh, it's a beautiful question. I can visualize the people from whom you are magnetized to those people, and you don't know how, why. Again, the magic, have they cast a spell on me? Like, why do I just want to be in that person's space? Okay. So, let to answer the question, I'm gonna give you a little step back in my world. I'm gonna say pre 2020,
Mm,
I was a very awkward networker. Okay,
mm,
I could not walk into a room because I'd be like, I'm not wearing the right clothes, I don't have the right bag, I don't know if my hair looks right, makeup, whatever, whatever. I just didn't feel
mm,
like I was gonna do this thing that you're supposed to do well. Okay. And as a result of my perceptions of myself.
Mhm.
Guess what? Yeah, I made a few connections, but I was that kind of shy person in the corner. If someone spoke to me, maybe I'd speak to them. Come 2020, and we all had to go online, and I was in my comfortable space. I kid you not, the work I did on the inside meant that I literally I was covering my wall here with post-it notes of the names of the women I'd connected with.
Yeah.
And it was, there were tens and tens and tens of them. There was a point at which I could have written the book on the 50 women in my life like that. Now I
Yeah.
can't now it's so many more that I can't even number them.
Mm.
Okay. So the magnetism, because I worked on myself, my energy, and I'm not saying I just connected to them, it was reciprocated. I now have women of all ages coming to me, as I'm sure you do, that it doesn't make sense on paper that we are friends. We don't
Yeah.
share heritage, we don't share race, we don't share cultural background, faith, any of those things, not
Yeah.
even career. And yet, in circle, we're together,
Yeah.
right? So the energetic work, I can only put it down to the energetic work,
Absolutely.
because now from the inside out, it's an inner confidence, glow, sense of self-worth. And I've
Yeah.
stopped killing myself over the things that I am weak at.
Ah, so let's take off on that.
Let's go there.
Yeah, let's go there. Let's go there. Is that something that we concern ourselves with too much as women?
Yes. Positive psychology, again, I only know a little bit, but I've done the Clifton Strengths test, for example. And the Clifton Strengths test gives you your top 5.
Yeah.
But the premise of it is, if we work a little bit at the thing that we have strength in, the return is exponential. The growth is exponential. A little nudge on something you're already really good at, you
Mm.
fly. Okay. Whereas if you keep bashing yourself for the things that you are not so good at, you might move a little bit, but it will be agonizing and the rewards are not as good.
Yeah.
So actually, positive psychology says work with your strengths and outsource the rest,
Yeah.
in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
since I owned that, and I thought about my values, where, if my values are collaboration, then when someone comes into my world and they're doing something similar, or that that looks like it could be competition, my mindset is one of collaboration,
100%.
implementing. So I don't even see that,
100%.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. I hear that. And as I was putting together this interview series, I started, reaching out to women. And somewhere along the line, something I've heard in the coaching industry, well, you're better off collaborating with non-competing, to use the term, non-competing service providers. And my thing, so that came to me, and my immediate response was, well, I'm not in competition with anyone. I would happily have another women empowerment coach on here, because our whole energetic blueprint and the people we attract as a result are different.
Completely
It's
different.
not competition.
Yeah.
It's about collaboration, 100%.
And if we look in at the strengths, the way in which we there will be some things that we have in common with other people, but everybody's strengths, like your gut, the the very insides of you is more unique than your fingerprint.
Yeah.
it is the one in the however many factor of, you know, millions, that you would be the same collection of cells. And even if we were like this thing about AI, right, and we can clone the being and so on, you cannot clone my experiences.
Absolutely not.
You haven't walked my path, and you haven't connected the dots the way I did,
That's right.
right? Therefore, your penny drop moments and mine we may come out with a similar phrase, but it's based on a different experience.
Very much so.
Therefore, I will resonate with some and you will resonate with others, and we will resonate with each other, because the penny dropping is, it's just a fact now because we've all experienced it, right? So the person who said to me, the most recent person who came to me and felt magnetized to speak with me, um, she said something very interesting to me about this idea of showing up consistently, right? Because it's another thing we get told to do. You have to show up, especially if you're a woman in business, or, you know, you're trying something for the first time and you really want to get traction and so on. You have to be consistent. You have to be consistent. And she said, and there was an expletive which I shan't repeat, but she said, it's not about that outward action being consistent. It's about being consistent in your energy, right?
Absolutely.
So how do you do that? You're the only one that knows you.
Mm.
And I don't care what anyone says. Someone will say to me, this worked for me, and I'll go, this works, and I'll say, that worked for you. Fantastic. I shall explore it. May not work for me.
And that's okay.
Yes.
And that's okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this very conversation that we're having now will land with some people and it won't with others. And that's
Absolutely.
beautiful. In
Absolutely. 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 You know, many years ago, I read a book, and I remember in the preface, the author just giving some insight into what her book is about. And there was a term that she used there, and it's stuck with me all these years. It's take what you need and leave the rest. And that's it. That's it. Awesome. So the inside out approach, and I am a big believer in that as well, because it has to start from within.
yes.
In the work I do, where I initially meet a lot of women, is the focus is still on the outside, but the
Mm,
transformation has already begun on the inside, even unbeknownst to them. They may not, they may know to some extent that something is shifting, something is changing. What was acceptable is no longer acceptable, you know, but not giving it a whole lot of thought. Okay.
yes,
Weathermakers,
my dear.
is it inside from the inside out?
Yes. Ah, you're back now. Yes. So I think your question was, is weather making from the inside out? Yes.
Yeah.
And the answer is, in a nutshell, yes. Um, and since we're on the topic of the weather, and we are in the UK, and it
Yeah.
is our favorite topics to talk about the weather. Let's just take that as an example. So when we say, oh gosh, it's raining, okay, we've automatically put rain into the category of poor weather conditions.
Mm.
That might be difficult for people who need to drive, I understand. It may be difficult for my children who have to walk to school, I understand. But as some wise people often say, there's no such thing as bad weather. There's just bad choices of outerwear,
There we
right?
go.
And if we don't have the rain, we're not going to have any food. We're not going to have any plants. We're not going to have any bio diversity. So that's a very simple example of how we speak about the everyday.
Mm.
And what I ask myself now is what do I need like right now, I needed a glass of water. Now, if I was to sit here and go, oh, but then the recording and then I'm doing this and I'm doing, no, I need a glass of water. My needs are important. I
Yeah.
know what they are. You can't do anything about it. I have to do something about it. Now, I do work. I am self-employed. I do have responsibilities at home. I do voluntary work. I'm speaking to you now. There's a number of things going on. And yet there is space in my diary. I use a color code. So I use a green color code and I put a little heart and then I put 30 minutes in there to just remind me to serve myself. Because I will not be able to provide the quality of service to my clients. I will not be able to focus my attention on my kids or my husband or my friends or whatever it is if I have, frankly, neglected the spirit, the soul that has been entrusted to me in this body.
Yeah.
Because if I don't do it, nobody else is going to. And even
Mm.
if they try, they're not going to do the best job because it's me and I know what I need.
Yeah.
There is a problem though. Often we don't know what we need because
Yeah.
we've stopped listening to the inner voice because it doesn't matter because I have to make sure everybody else is all right. What kind of message is that sending, especially women to their daughters, that you tend to yourself when everybody else is sorted, then you tend to yourself?
Mm.
Wrong, wrong, wrong. I don't use the word wrong very often. This
Yeah.
is the time. I'm reading Glennon Doyle's Untamed at the minute,
Okay.
and one of the things she says in there is, our children don't need us to be martyrs as mothers; they need us to be role models.
Mm. I like that. I like that. That sits right alongside, a saying I heard some years ago, and I use it myself. Our children are always watching, and they're watching for not to, hear what you say, but to see what you do and how
Mm.
you're being. Yeah, I
And
love
how
it.
you and they catch that vibe,
Oh,
that
yeah.
feel. You cannot fake that because if we have had children, we've hypnotized them from birth.
We
They are
have
fully connected to
from birth. Kid you not.
inner being. They are fully connected,
Yeah.
even when the umbilical cord is gone,
Abs-
right?
That's interesting that you've mentioned the umbilical cord because I have no scientific or spiritual study around this, but something I have come to believe with all my being, and I don't know if there are any studies done, I'd love to hear of it if anyone knows of it, is the the physical and spiritual connection and importance of the umbilical cord. I don't believe it is ever truly ever cut.
There's a
Physically,
DNA, no, there's a DNA transfer. We logically know that from mother to baby, but also from baby to mother.
also from baby to mother. Yeah, that's a whole other and a whole other
And
one.
that's a whole other summit, my
Yeah,
dear.
yeah. But to talk about the weather making here insofar as how it impacts our families and how our children starting there perhaps or or partners. I do recall when and you probably have a very similar experience of this with your children, but when my daughter was very, 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 very young, newborn, young, you know, and she would get upset. It was almost, I intuitively felt that she would look at me to see how much longer she should cry for. Should she be crying? It's getting that feedback. It's that so even our rainmaking, especially not rainmaking, sorry, weather making with
Yeah,
the people in our lives start pretty much from day one, if not before.
for exactly that. And that's it's a beautiful path to wander down as well. I want to give a few kind of guideposts. I'm
Please
borrowing that
do. Please
from,
do.
from Brene Brown, but these guideposts or these things to think about, and let's use the symbols of the weather that we're very familiar with, which link up to the elements in our world. So, for example, let's think about the water. The water's in our being. Okay, so we talk about the rain on the outside. What if we reframe when we see the rain? And again, I've borrowed this phrase: rain is mercy. Rain is the reminder that water is the key to life. Find yourself to drink some water every time it rains. It rains a lot in this country. You're going to be drinking a lot.
A lot.
It's detoxifying, right? It clears away, it flushes away. And it also, and this is going to sound interesting, this is from the Gene Keys, water is also weak in the sense that it does not attach to anything, it just flows on, right? So make that part of our credo, which is, yeah, I'm just going to go over this rock, I'm going to go into this little place, I'm going to flow here, I'm going to pass that, and I'm going to try my best. If I start to stagnate, I'm going to try and refresh. So the element of water and the rain making, to find the joy in that by reframing and looking at what we're doing on the inside to keep the waters of the body flowing biologically, but also psychologically. The brain does its washover at, during sleep, right?
Yeah.
There's a wash that
Oh,
has
yeah.
to
Washing and cleansing. Yeah.
washing and cleansing. So that's with the water. Then when we think about the air and we think about the wind and we think about the element of clearing and moving things out of the way, and our breath is our prosperity. As long as we have breath, we are prospering, right? Because otherwise we're dead. The end, move on. We'll go back in to the land and nourish that way. But the breath then, so how much time do we hold breath and wait to exhale on the weekend of an evening? No, we've got to breathe all the time consciously. And I work with a consciously connected breath worker who helps with open mouth breathing and really getting that to move, to move, to move, to move. So when the next time it's a windy day and we're like, oh gosh, I wish it wasn't so windy. That's the external weather reminding us about our internal breath.
Yeah.
And we can't see the wind, like we can't see the energy, but we know we need it for life, right? So that is the other one. And then if we think about the sun, let's go to the sun. The source of healing. Let the sun heal you, let the moon reveal you. I've stolen that from somewhere too. I don't know where from. But the radiating sun, the glorious rays of mercy there, the heat, the fire, the passion, igniting that center of creativity, right? And we often associate that again with that kind of middle area where our passions can ignite. And that is where, when we see the sunshine and we feed ourselves through it, we remember to ignite that within ourselves. So what is that spark within you that nobody else knows, but you've come here to contribute it?
Yeah.
I mean, that is where I would talk about impact. What is the impact? What's the difference you've come here to make? It needs watering, it needs nurturing, it needs the breath, and the fire must keep being ignited. Only you can do that.
You know, that all of this is so lovely. It has it just washes over my being so beautifully in such a cleansing way. And what you said here about, it's almost like challenging us, challenging the listener with that very soft question that you asked, but a very powerful question. what is the difference you came
Mhm.
here to make? Because I think that is one of the major things that women in midlife, in particular,
Mhm.
struggle with. That loss of purposefulness, that sense of who
Mhm.
they are, what, meaning, what are they here to do? How can they feel fulfilled? How can
Yeah,
they live a life that's meaningful? Nothing feels like, it hits those spots anymore.
yeah. I, yeah, I'm gonna say something that's just come to me now, but
Yeah.
has been part of my feeling and thinking for a while, is that if you don't know the answer to that, what is my purpose now that I've grown the kids or done the job or whatever it is I've done? How about simply turning in and saying, actually, I'm going to take some time to serve myself.
Yeah.
I'm going to serve myself, which requires me to have a conversation that I may or may not have had for a very long time. And it's not easy. And it feels, people will go, isn't that narcissistic or self-indulgent or selfish or all of that? Yes, maybe. Let's go there though, because we've gone everywhere else. Let's
Absolutely.
go visit. They say home is where the heart is. What is your heart? What is the fabric of your heart? What is the texture of your heart? Is it broken? Is it open? Is it consolable? Is it bleeding? Is it hurting? What are the qualities of your heart that only you know? And while we are doing that, and let's come to something you and I spoke about in preparation for today, let's walk on the land, because the element of earth and Mother Earth,
Mm.
the one who without condition
Mm.
brings us gravity, so we are always anchored, we're always supported, right? And what does being on the land, wherever you live, being on the earth, what does that feel like? What does it feel like to know that, if we talk about grounding now being the new cheap way of dealing with everything, standing on the land for 5 minutes, 10 minutes tops, just to give it all for transmuting, transforming, and just to have that connection, right? She is our home. We've chosen to come and have a human experience,
Yeah.
I would say, and it's on Earth. So every day that you get up, you're like, aha, so another day on planet Earth. What are we going to do now?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's it. That's the thing that's kept me going. And trust me, there are plenty of things that have been of challenge. And my new favorite word is equanimity.
Mm.
Equanimity. I regard it all, or challenge myself to regard it all with equanimity. The view from the mountain is as beautiful as the view from the valley.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So when
Absolutely.
we feel like we've hit the bottom, the rock bottom, there's treasures at the bottom of the ocean, right?
Yeah.
And you spoke about this earlier, this going on this treasure hunt,
Yeah.
finding the beauty. There always is.
Yeah.
And when we go through the pain, because that's the only way to get past it, is to go through it, it's that is the beauty of what we're doing. It's not to say that we'll come out and then we'll find the pot of gold at the end of the. Nobody talks about what happens when you find the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Is it happily ever after? No, you go looking for the next rainbow.
That's right. That's right. Wow. I,
Mm,
I I do like that as a place to sort of bring everything home, Shanaz. That's been so
gee.
powerful.
Mm,
And definitely, has within it the power to set women the women who needed to hear this today on that path to I call it self-rediscovery. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah. And in a way that is about their own weather making, perhaps just examining their own weather making
Mm.
um, abilities and gifts
Yes.
more deeply,
Yes.
and this time doing so in ways that serves them too.
Yeah. I will leave this with the phrase that I use a lot, just become your own best friend.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Ah, that's a beautiful place on which, to close. Be your own best friend.
Mm.
Shanaz, thank you so much
Thank you.
for everything that you have shared here. The wisdom was just,
Mm.
it was a gold mine of wisdom
Mm.
sharing. Thank you for sharing it with such power, such beauty,
Mm.
and such reaffirmation as well. Because so much of what was said, you know, perhaps someone listening here, more than one, I do know, myself most definitely, we're hearing it differently in a way that lands. So thank you. You have a beautiful ability
Mm.
to put that over and have it just impact people immediately. Thank you for everything you've shared. Thank you for your time, and thank you for the lives you are touching
Mm.
in this world and are definitely going to touch and touching on
Mm.
this summit. Thank you so very much. Anything else that you wanted to share? For example, I would say for the women who would like to connect with you, how can you be reached?
Yes, 100%. Cheryl, I want to say thank you to you, because if you hadn't held the space, and through your questions and your engagement, then I have been able to share what I needed to. So, thanks and credit. We can both take the credit for the conversation.
Yes,
I thank you.
we'll do
So,
that.
so the
Thank
way that I love to connect with people is either you can come and see the kind of retreats that I hold. I run drumming circles. I have half-day intention setting retreats on a quarterly basis. All of these are collaborations, by the way. And I also offer one-to-one consultations. So if people want to discover the power of plant medicine, so I use essential oils, then they're very welcome to have one-to-one conversations with me. And I run things online so that people can pop in as well. So it's one link that will take you to everything.
right.
And I also help people to design their impact theory of change, their own way of planning out their route map to make a difference in the world. So lots of things to offer, and I just want to meet you where you are. That's it.
Beautiful. Beautiful, lovely. And your information will be somewhere around our video here, but it will be included, and you will have an opportunity, have the information you need to follow up with Shanaz. Thank you so much again, and to the women who have joined us today and will be watching the replays, thank you so much for your beautiful presence. Looking forward to seeing you again. Thank you, Shanaz.